Dealing with the stress, it's almost like learning how this vehicle works, getting all the bits and pieces in place, and then, okay, I have my vehicle and now I'm gonna go out in the world.
Something in our system reacted to that. So just hearing other people's story, depending on how we grew up and how safe we feel in ourselves.
It's a learning and it's an ability to grow, and everything is about growing.
Oh my God, I'm feeling worse. I was like, no, you're feeling more. You're just feeling, you're coming back to life.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Internal Alchemy podcast with me, Sara, and my husband Simba, of course, the main character of Internal Alchemy. Hi Simba.
Hello Sara.
How you doing?
I'm doing good, doing good.
What are we talking about today?
So a lot of these topics that we talk about are based on questions that we get either from clients or students in the program, because I know what I think is fun to talk about, but that might not be what other people think is fun. So today, I think we narrowed it down to, are we focusing on stress release, or are we focusing on expansion and growth in your nervous system? Because those are two very different aspects. Like, am I letting go of stress and focusing on healing myself? Or am I focusing on having more capacity so I can hold more space and I can grow my business, my relationship, my stress tolerance to unforeseen events or so on?
Yeah, so the main topic is stress or pressure. So healing stress and managing stress, it's a completely different, I would say it's a completely different topic. It's a different mindset, it's a different practice. And doing the more holding pressure and expanding your capacity to hold more and to, it's almost like you want to be able to spend less energy and to be able to hold more capacity. It's like increasing your bandwidth, to say. So if Dr. David Berceli, he has a very nice talk about post-traumatic growth. So it's almost like it's post-traumatic stress versus post-traumatic growth. And we have experienced over the years that this is very different, and also for ourselves, we are learning that, okay, the stress management and healing the nervous system, it's like healing the nervous system and expanding the nervous system. It's two very different paths.
Definitely. When I look at post-traumatic stress, I've had quite a fair share of deal with myself. It's a charge in your nervous system that's still active. So the trauma on a neurological, on a biological level in your body, not in your mind necessarily, it's still happening. Like, my mind knows this happened 10 years ago or whatever. But in my body, the charge is still active like the day it actually happened. So it's repeating itself. So when I look at post-traumatic growth, that is when we have discharged that stress, that sensation that was stuck in the body, and now we're left with experience and wisdom and maybe even more expansion. And I think that's where the saying comes from, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. If you integrate it, process it, and release it, then you grow, and it becomes post-traumatic growth. So I think those two concepts are very good in terms of pressure or stress release.
Would you say that these are linear? Because my experience, so this is only my personal experience, I'm not saying that everyone needs to go, because time is not linear anyway, but from my experience, I did the stress management and the stress release and the trauma work and all of that first, to kind of get up to some sort of baseline. I was running on a very low deficit. I mean, you've asked me over the years also, like you said, I think you have PTSD. And I think in some sense, most people do, because living in this world right now is highly traumatic. It's, I think we are experiencing, and we see this all over the world, that people are dealing with very, very high levels of stress. So for me, I'm not saying for everyone, and I need you to come back to me with this, with your opinion about this. But it's like you have to go to a certain baseline first, and then it's like expanding from there. It's like it's like learning how to alchemize the stress and the events and the memories and the things that we've been through, or the things that we have gathered and collected in our body over the years. It's like learning how to kind of clean the system. And for me, then when I've done that to some extent, then I could start learning how to hold the pressure of certain situations, because for me that's completely different. Like, it's more difficult to hold a high pressure situation if I have a lot of pressure already in the body from the past. It's like if I have a lot of stress in the body, that expands much more easy when I'm under a high pressure situation. And high pressure situation for me is running a business, or once you go to a little bit higher levels and you want to expand and you want to do more, duality also increases. So for me, the pressure is about being able to hold the duality of the world, and when you expand, the pressure is higher. So it's like dealing with the stress, it's almost like learning how this vehicle works. And like, okay, I'm leaking over here, I'm doing this, okay, I got this all wrong. It's like getting all the bits and pieces in place, and then, okay, I have my vehicle, and now I'm gonna go out in the world and do stuff and expand and increase my capacity. And it's almost like I can up-level my vehicle as I expand.
Yeah, one of my fascia trainings was focus on this a lot, pressure, how we're moving pressure around the body through our breathing, through our intention, through how much hydration we have in our body, because the human body is, depending on who you ask, 60 to 80% water. So there's always going to be pressure in our system. We have gases, air, we have fluids, and of course more firmer, denser forms, like bones and cartilage, organs, muscles, tissues, basically. So when we look at pressure, it's not just a mental aspect. It's not just from an intellectual point of view. It's a real physiological, like a tangible sensation. It's a tangible phenomenon that happens. You can see it in physics and so on. So if you're on a higher altitude, there's a certain kind of pressure. If you're on a lower altitude, there's a different kind of pressure. But basically, everything you do in life will create some kind of pressure or stressor on your body. The lights we have here, the sunlight, the temperature, all of these things, sounds, everything will create some kind of pressure on your body externally. If you have a lot of pent-up pressure on the inside, like things you've been through, but you couldn't really express yourself, you couldn't say no, you couldn't fight, you couldn't do what your body naturally wanted to do, it usually holds its breath. And just because the event has passed, it doesn't mean that you're gonna fully recover your breath again. So part of that pressure is still there in terms of tension, tightness, a charge in your nervous system, which starts to tighten the fascia, which starts to kind of make everything less fluid. So that's a big part of actually creating more space in your body that can change your thoughts, can change your emotions. So it might not be that you're mentally feeling trapped. Your body can feel trapped because it's dehydrated and stuck. So when you open up this internal pressures of your body through the breath work, in the internal alchemy, or the tremors, the energy work, the fascia work, then we are creating more space that literally allows you to be better equipped to handle a business, a relationship, or a new endeavor, a new adventure, something you're going to do differently. And kind of to go back to the PTS, they used to call it PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, because they used to look at it as a pathology, like a disease. But it's not coming from a virus, it's not coming from a bacteria, right? It comes from experiences, right? So then they kind of remove the D and it's post-traumatic stress. So yes, everyone can have it, but depending on how we grew up and how safe we feel in ourselves, you know, even when you're born, you're bathing in the stress hormones or chemicals of your mother. So whether she had a lot or she had a calm life, and how you started your life, how you were taught to handle risks, and you know, feeling, I fall down on a bicycle, it's okay, I cry, I come home, okay, now I feel strong enough, I try the bicycle again. Or you fall down and no one's there, and you're like, oh my God, that was scary. What if no one's there when that happens again? That builds up a different kind of pressure and a sense of wanting to take risks versus having fear in my body. So that will create a lot of pressure that might be restrictive. And if you compile that over a lifetime, you might not even know where it began. But it's like, oh my God, I'm also afraid of doing new things. And it's kind of like when we were moving to Thailand, right? Like you went to your hairdresser and said, we're gonna sell off everything we own, we're gonna move to Thailand, we're gonna start a business. And 2 days later, this hairdresser meets another lady that doesn't know you, doesn't know anything about you, and she tells this story, and she kind of has a panic attack. She has a meltdown, like, that's so irresponsible. How can they do that? What's going on? Because the pressure in her body got so triggered and reacted just from hearing about someone else taking something that felt like a big chance, a big risk, and the pressure and the stress and something in her system reacted to that. So just seeing, hearing other people's story, it can get a reaction in ourselves because something is still not feeling safe. So I think a lot of what we do with Internal Alchemy and Phoenix Rising is not to go into the story or necessarily emotion. You allow the body to process, to clear, discharge, to alleviate this pressure, so there's more space and you can just, okay, I'm ready. I can do something different, right? The clothes are not too tight on me, which is the feeling when the fascia is dehydrated and tight. My lungs can fully expand, so I can bring oxygen up to my head, so I can literally think, right? Like my chemistry is working in my head. I can produce happy thoughts and emotions. I'm not stuck in cortisol and downward spirals and stressors. I can actually produce something that brings me upwards. So I think that's really where the somatic work comes in, that it doesn't really necessarily have to talk about biology or physiology or neurology or psychology or this story, this theory. You simply connect to your body through natural tools and it works, and you will start to feel different. And that different with integration can be better. It can be more expansive, it can be feeling more. And then you go, oh my God, I'm feeling worse. And I was like, no, you're feeling more. You're just feeling, you're coming back to life.
But that's the pressure.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, I mean, myself and you too, I mean, we were disconnected from our bodies. We were disconnected from the system, this vehicle, this extraordinary thing that our bodies are, that we move through the world. And it's the level of connection with our body, with the system, with both the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, the energetical. That is what determines our ability to move in the world to the level that we want. Because it's not about everyone has to do this, it's about, is your connection and knowledge and skill about your body matching the level of life that you want to live. So that's why I come back to the fact that we gotta learn this thing. I mean, I used to actually joke when I was younger that I don't know what's in here. It's like I used to do that when I was 20 or something. I was like, it feels like wood, and then there's something soft outside. It's like, what is actually in here?
Yeah, self-awareness.
Yeah, but I was also very aware that I had no clue.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that I was noticing that I had all these emotions, all these pressures along the central line. And now when I think back, actually, because I can go back to that time, I felt things all the way to the belly, but not below.
Yeah, that's common.
Yeah, so it was. So now I know what all of that was, the different pressures and the. So I'm like thinking back. Yeah, I had a very strong pressure, and it was not a pleasant pressure. So I was always trying to make that go away. So I just cut it off. I found different ways of disconnecting with that sensation because it was so strong.
And the area you're pointing to is where the diaphragm is. And I mean, the diaphragm is the breathing muscle. As you inhale, it pushes the organ down so the lungs can fully expand. And on top of the diaphragm rests the heart. And the liver, of course, on the right side, right? So you have like, it's literally pumping the whole body. It's actually connected all the way up to the brain. You can see the brain goes down a bit when you breathe in and out. So it's actually pumping fluids in everywhere. So if we're holding our breath, if we're not fully expanding in our breath, then the internal pressure of the body will grow more and more. And what you said was, without going into details, definitely if something happened to this area, you know, shame, like when you wear a diaper or you wet yourself or all of these things, or if we had experiences, there's a lot of guilt and shame around our genitals or feeling rooted. So all of these things can lead to disconnection to parts of your body. And I think a lot of this work is really reconnecting to these parts and integrating them and allowing them to function, right? If you start to feel uneasy in a body part, that's a sign. Don't shut it down. Don't just override it and take a pill or ignore it. Like, it's there for a reason. If you need to go to the bathroom, then go to the bathroom. But we're kind of taught that, oh, now it's not a good time. Well, look at an animal, you know, a dog will cross the street and will go, yeah, bathroom, and then continues. I mean, maybe don't do that, but that's similar functions in our body. But we're so taught intellectually and culturally and in society override it a little bit more to become time-producing units because that's how we kind of build society. We work and making money and all of that. So that itself can override the natural functions and create a lot of pressure in us to the point where we don't really understand the body, like you said. Like, what's really here? Why is this happening? Why is this going on like this? There should be a reason for it. And then many times we outsource that. We go to a doctor that works with pathologies, which is great. But there's a big spectrum between I feel something in my body and I'm in a sick, like the body's in a sick condition. It's like a speedometer, right? Like you're driving 20, 40, 60. Like when you go to a hospital, you're probably in this range. Like you probably need help with this range. You don't need help with this. This is the wellness range. That's the range where you need help with something. But if you come into the hospital or similar at this range, it can actually drive you closer to this. Not saying it's bad, but it might not be where you think it is at that point. And if you prematurely go in and treat it like that and outsources, you're further disconnecting yourself from your body, which might create even more pressure.
Yeah, but it's like someone else is telling you what's going on instead of finding out what's going on. But that's what I mean, like learning how the vehicle works to the extent that you feel like you can operate it to the level that you want. Mm-hmm. And that's why the moving into the pressure of high pressure situations and being able to handle them, and not only handle them, but being the person that you want to be, and to be able to be expanding from that. Because us as humans, we are deeply connected with nature, And that was also something that I didn't really understand, because I didn't grow up in nature. I didn't have animals, or I didn't have that connection. And so I felt like, okay, connection to nature, does that mean like touching grass, like very physical, like very hands-on? I didn't get it. But now I understand that it's an energetical component, because it's the contrast and the duality of life, and that is represented in nature everywhere. It's the night and day, it's life and death, it's hot and cold, sun and moon. I mean, it goes on forever. And when you understand the duality and the fact that in nature everything is constantly growing and evolving, through this contrast, through the night and day, through the sun and the moon, everything is like sun and rain. It feeds everything in nature, and we are so deeply connected with that. And it's about, we are constantly evolving. And when there is stagnation, there is also death. So when the energy is not flowing in the system, where something is stagnant, that's when diseases start to come. So when we are disconnected from this constant evolution, we are also afraid of, or make it like this, if we have high levels of stress and we have a lot of negative experiences in life, like what you said, I fell on the bike, no one was there, and then I become more afraid of doing things again. So if we are unable to try new things and unable to learn, or that we are afraid of stepping out of our comfort zone, because the comfort zone is that pressure. And if we look at people who have accomplished extraordinary things, it's very easy to say, oh, it's easy for them because this or that. But that's not entirely true, because no one on this planet has done this before.
No.
Everyone is in the same situation, that is growing and evolving, and what is the saying? Fortune favors the bold. So being bold and courageous is about being able to step out of the comfort zone and hold the pressure in the body of that circumstance, because when we want to go to higher altitudes, there's a different atmosphere, and we have to adjust to that, and that is the pressure in the body. And if we are unable to handle the slightest pressure shift in the body, and that's why it's so interesting that you connect the fascia work, because the fascia work actually moves physical pressure in the body. And the past experiences and the energetics of those experiences are in those pressures, because energy is, emotions are energy in motion, and they are in the body, and they are oftentimes stored in the fascia, and then they are connected to belief systems and habits and memories and ideas and things like that. So if we haven't done the manual work, so to speak, with this physical, emotional, and spiritual being, it's going to be much, much more difficult to handle the pressure of new circumstances when we want to expand our lives. A lot of people talk about abundance, for instance. Abundance is that process. It's the result of the process of being able to hold the pressure of more, whatever that means or whatever that is.
I agree. I think a big part of knowing about the nervous system, especially the way that we teach it through the polyvagal theory, or influenced by the polyvagal theory, I would say, is coming back to pressure, stress release, the main theme that we said. And I believe many times people think they procrastinate, or they're lazy, or they don't have enough motivation or purpose, or all of these things. And most of these behaviors, like even laziness, is actually, what I've seen, defensive mechanisms from a nervous system that is overly burdened with stress. Not saying that you have stress. You can be sitting on your couch and feeling stressed And it's not that you're lazy or you're not have the nerves for it. It's that many accumulated experiences that haven't been seen, validated, expressed, integrated. So there's a big charge going to the point where you disconnect, you dissociate mind and body. And when we start to dissociate, we don't feel the stress that's there. So when you start to relax and calm down, you will feel the stress. But then many times psychologically people say, oh, now it's feeling worse. I'm like, no, you're feeling what's actually there. You're feeling the pressure that's there.
Yeah.
Therefore, we might need to let go of the stress first before we have the capacity to increase the pressure, because we have to know what's going on. If we look at the term stagnation, they use it in traditional Chinese medicine to explain a low flow of energy. That's really what they're talking about from traditional Chinese medicine. When we're talking stagnation today, it comes from economy, that it's not going up, it's not going down. But what I want to get to, it's a man-made term, because there's never anything in nature that's stagnated. There's pauses. There might be contraction when you breathe in, and expansion. You sit on a beach and you look at waves. The waves goes out into the ocean, there's a pause. They come back in, there's a pause. So there's pauses, but there's never a stop. There's always a flow. So if you think there's a pause or nothing is happening, that is one of the first signs of disconnection. There's stress to the point where we're not able to feel what's actually happening. And many times what happens is we think we have to do more. And that might actually come from your head and your body saying, oh my God, this is too much, and it disconnects. So now I have an inner conflict that I might not even be aware of. And then trying to add pressure or do something new from there is going to be impossible. So therefore the first work is really to get to know yourself and clear that stress. And that's why we see in yoga studios everywhere in the world, you have trauma-informed or trauma-trained practitioners, is because they understood when you start to relax and go deeper into the body, it's not always going to be comfortable. You're going to feel what's there. And you might need support and care and education in what is it that's actually happening for your body. Not that someone tells you, but that someone creates a safe space for you to explore and to have a new experience to the sensations that comes up. Otherwise, we can be very overwhelmed, and it can lead to higher states of overwhelm, and the highest states you start to go towards, psychotic states or so on, but that's just a very high level of fear where you're not able to ground and connect to something tangible. We're just continue to spin and we don't feel a sense of grounding or that we're connected, rooted to something. We start to disconnect from everything to the point where it feels like we're drifting away. And there's lots to be said about that. It can be its whole own episode, I would say. But I think the main point what I wanted to say is stagnation is not real. There's always a circulation in it. And the times where we feel stagnated, that's usually a time to really meditate and relax and realize there's usually a pause before there's a shift. And to really get to know where we're coming from. Where is my nervous system at? Where's my body at? Am I taking care of my fascia? Am I taking care of my body in general? Like, I've had many periods of life where I felt understimulated, like really understimulated, recently as well. And I notice, I go to bed later, I kind of like, whatever, like it feels like I'm drifting around. But as soon as I feel that connection to purpose and I do something, everything aligns. So when I notice that, sometimes I realize, okay, that's the time to take a step back and try to rest and recover, even though I don't like that too much. But I've learned that, like through this work, that's really how it works. Because if you're always doing an output of energy and you're not getting something in, you're going to start to burn out. And if you override those sensations, you disconnect from the body. And if you, from that point, try to still do something and you find that your body is self-sabotaging or you forget things or you oversleep, that's a self-defensive mechanism not to burn yourself out. So I think that's really, in the aspect of stress release, that's not where we're in the capacity to build more pressure, to hold more. We need to hold ourselves first. You need to clear that so I can then do something else.
Yeah, but that's the contraction and the expansion that you
Yes.
talk about, because that happens all the time in life. It's about how well are we aware of that, and that's the pressure. You need to expand and then contract, and we do that all the time. And I mean, for instance, when I do this podcast, I feel like I expand. I feel like my energy is going up. I feel like I notice my eyes are getting bigger. I get more excited. I talk faster. And then, I need to slow down. But, well, maybe I am in my element. Maybe I think this is fun. Maybe I get excited about this. But this is not all I am.
No.
So if I expand a lot, then I need to contract after. So then I go into deep silence and deep practices, and I can do both. So it's about how deep can I contract and how far can I expand. And when we contract, we are going to find things. We're going to find what is in there. But we're also going to find that when we expand, because it's going to stretch us in some capacity. And for anyone who is, even if you're doing the stress management or the first step or that step, it doesn't have to be linear, but that step, because you can do it simultaneously. Because, I mean, I hadn't started this work. I mean, I started a little bit, and I would say that I was very interested, but I came as far as I could on my own before moving to Thailand. But we sold everything we owned. I moved to the other side of the city, the other side of the world.
Big city of the world.
Big city of the world. Started a company and all of these things. And all of those things are super expansive.
Oh, yeah.
And at the same time, I went straight into the core of the contraction. So we were facing both at the same time. And then we also started the retreat center, and we invited people to move in with us and live with us, which also created both the expansion and the contraction at the same time. So we have been basically living in warp speed healing, learning, processing, expansion for the last 8 years, and that is why we now are ready to do something else and start traveling and move out of this little bubble that we've had and really try the wings that we have been expanding. But this ability to go from expansion to contraction is a way to hold the pressure and allowing things to happen without falling apart on the inside or collapsing emotions, collapsing ideas, collapsing belief systems, or turning on oneself or turning on the environment, saying, oh, this happened because of this, and just hold everything. Can I hold the situation? Can I hold the pressure of the ascension? Because if I contract while I expand, then I go down again. So that is a very, and it's all a skill. It's all a skill that anyone can learn, because it's your body. You are the master of your own body. So what we teach is like, it's collecting data. Like, okay, this seems to work for everyone. And these are the results that people get, and then we get confirmation from teachers and teachings and other people that are doing the same things around the world, and we start to really gather the knowledge about, okay, how does this meat suit work? Okay, it has an emotional component that is invisible. It has the energetical components that is also invisible, but not. So it's like once you learn that skill, you can't unlearn it. And then you can become the master of your own body. And then you can, okay, I want to go there. Or I know I'm supposed to be there. And that starts
the
to
essence,
evolve
yeah.
as you get to know this thing. That kind of comes. It's built. It's a built-in manual. So the more you learn and the more you dig and the more you learn the skill of expansion and contraction, it's all in there. It's not like, oh, I need to figure out my purpose. No, it's going to come to you when you go inside.
Yeah, and I mean, when I look at internal alchemy, that's really the foundation. You know, you have the breath, which pumps everything in your body. So you're literally working with the pressure of your body. The nervous system is the awareness. Where am I going? Which speed am I moving at? The connection to everything, being aware and communicating. That's like the main operating language that allows everything to speak to each other and realize what's happening, right? That's the main software, what's going on, right? And then you look at the fascia, that's the fabric of everything. So it's both tangible, but it's also intangible, because the layer of fascia that's spoken about most of the time is the connective tissue around the organs and all of these things. But what's been practiced for thousands of years in India and in China and Qigong, Tai Chi, in yoga, is more the energetical components of fascia. Like if I pull the finger back like this and let it go, that's not a joint, that's not a bone, that's not a muscle, that's the recoil effect of the fascia. I expand, and the contraction happens, and in that contraction we are moving the pressure that we build up, and we start to not create energy, but move energy around. So that's the energy component. And then when you combine it all with tremors, you're basically looking at frequency. My body's resonating at a certain frequency, that's why I can feel it. That's why I can touch a wall. But at another frequency, it will not be tangible the same way. It will be different. So when you tremor, your body's actually entering into a state of frequency, changing all the tissues, bindings of your body. So it's opening up from the inside. So you asked a question before, if I think PTS and post-traumatic growth are linear. Not necessarily, they don't have to be. I think of more of it as a duality, right? Like night and day. I mean, there's this story, I can't remember, I think it's a Japanese legend that said like the sun and the moon used to be in love, you know, but they live on different time zones, so they can't meet. It's like a love that doesn't happen. So then the eclipse happen every now and then for them to meet. And that's like poetic when you look at it and you're like, well, okay, that's a nice story. What does that actually really mean? That means even dualities have a state of integration. And when I look at it from internal alchemy, the breathing through your nostrils, we're dominant in one nostril for about 2 hours and then usually the other one for 2 hours. But at least twice a day, you're going to be dominant from both of your nostrils in your breathing. So there is a natural connection from the polarities in the body too. So that means it's not fully linear. It will kind of intermingle and weave. And you can have your best moments in your life happen at the same time as your worst moment is happening. So that's why I'm looking at it like it's not really linear, because you can have both at the same time, right? It's just a different dimension to it. So when I look at internal alchemy, it's just traveling through different layers of yourself. Is it an energetical layer? It's more in a breathing, like what layer am I going on, and not getting stuck in a dogma, this is how it works. No, use curiosity and a safe space for you to explore whatever you want to explore and create more opportunities for you.
That's very interesting, because that's when, the expansion and contraction kind of happens at the same time, but in different levels of the body. It could be in the physical body, the emotional body, energetical body, or the spiritual body. We haven't really spoken so much about the spiritual body, but that is the connection to whatever you call it, source, God, universe,
cosmos.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it. And that is a spirit. And that is a huge component, because that is where the trust and the faith comes from. So it's the experiencing the duality of the world And once you can hold the pressure of that duality and actually have the worst experience and the best experience almost simultaneously and go in between. So it's the ability to hold both.
Yes.
And because we cannot be with the sun and the moon, we have both the day and the night and the all of these contrast and the duality. We can't escape that. That is the good and the bad. You know, the rain and the sun, the happiness and the sadness.
The yin and the yang.
The yin and the yang. And all of this is living and what do you call it? They exist at the same time.
Yeah, they coexist.
They coexist all the time. And the ability to hold both and navigate both and move through both almost simultaneously. And understand that, okay, now I feel super satisfied. I sit here, my sacral is all lit up, I'm all excited, I speak fast, da, da, da. But then in 2 hours something can happen and then I'm all, you know, down. And knowing that this is not my current state, or this is my current state, but this is not my only state. And understand that things
perspective.
Yes, and being able to hold that contrast. And I really love that you answered that question with, so I have to contemplate this after this a little bit, because it is happening at the same time. You're doing the stress management and the holding the pressure because you're building yourself as you go. And I've actually talked a lot about with my students about this. There's a saying that you learn to play the violin while being on stage.
Yeah.
And that is like learning by doing, and you learn in the moment when you do it, and that is the confidence and the courage of just, you know, let's do the damn thing, you know, like let's do it.
Rumi said the same thing, you know, start walking and the path will appear,
Exactly.
the way will appear. So it's been talked about in all kinds of cultures and all over the world.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And this is what we notice also with the practitioners that we train, that of course you can be very good at helping people to work with their stress and their system, but then the practitioners also want to grow. They want to start a business, they want to expand, they want to do things, maybe they want to travel with their knowledge, maybe they want to do like us, they want to create their own modality. You know, all of this is, or maybe they have a job and then they want, I want to do this full time. All of this is like taking the leap of faith, trusting in the unknown, all of these things. And then that's when you start to hold the pressure. So you can be very good at the stress aspect of things and then go into the pressure.
I think it's a matter of frequency too. Like your thoughts have a certain frequency, emotions have a certain frequency. The output of your essence, your being, will affect everything around you. Like if I'm very lethargic and tired, I get very tired, and you know it will affect. Maybe I won't clean as much, and then my room gets dirty. So like my internal state will always affect what's around me and who I choose to show up with, who I choose to interact with. So when I'm looking at I've done a lot of trainings, a lot of different modalities, and most of the trainings I did, I think 80 to 90% of the practitioners, they stop within a year. And then after 2 years, 80 to 90% of them stop too. And it's not necessarily that they can't hold the pressure, it's really an internal journey. Because many times you can work against belief systems. Like, I have this really old memory when I was in 2nd grade, I'm probably 8 years old, and we had this assignment in school. What do you want to do when you become older? And I was like, okay, I want to work with health and with people. And the first thing the teacher said was, oh, you're not going to have a full-time job, that's going to be really hard. And you know, either you can be like, And the first thing that came up for me was like, I'm going to show you. That was the first thing that came up in my mind. I'm going to show you you're wrong, right? Like
so
that.
who did you inherit that idea from?
Well, I think from both my parents, because they're very, very determined.
Yeah,
you
so
know?
not everyone has that.
No, and if you don't have that, that can actually
Yeah.
close you down.
Yeah.
So when I'm looking at it, like, there is this, I wanted to get to, there's this space, which I think comes back to where we said there's no stagnation. There's just this void space, as you talk about. And I think a lot of people quit when they get to the void space because it increases the pressure. And when pressure increases, whatever's there, you will find it, you will see it, right? Like you pressurize a room that's not empty, whatever's in the room is gonna start to feel it. And then you depressurize it, that's gonna come up. You take a Coca-Cola or whatever, a beverage that's carbonated, and you shake it and you open up, it creates a pressure, and you open it up, it's gonna explode. If you let it go little by little, you're able to handle it. And that's the nervous system self-regulation analogy. If I let it go a little bit, it doesn't become too much. I can work with all that's in this bottle, so it can never be too much, but it can be too fast, that I open this pressure up too fast and it explodes. And that's the overwhelm, or when I start to go into I don't know what's what, and I can, higher states, more psychotic. But when it comes to building like a business, I like this. It's fun for me. I did it for a few friends. Now I'm going to build a business. Especially in Sweden, they're saying, oh yeah, you know, interests and inflation and you know, blah, blah, blah. There's tons of excuses not to do anything. And I said, every excuse you have, I can give you 10 reasons why you should do it. I can give you 10 answers to every excuse you have not to do it. It really comes down to what you want to do, right? Don't get influenced. If everyone around you tells you don't do it, it's a bad idea, okay, 2 choices. Is this a good environment and good crowd for me? Okay, yes, then maybe it's a bad idea, right? Or maybe they don't just see what you see and you will inspire them to do something else. Or maybe their limitations, their pressure, like we said in the beginning, is holding you back to the point where you start to think it's a bad idea, and then you don't do what you wanted to do, that's your purpose. And the problem with that is when you're not living in your purpose, you are using your life force to move forward. What does that mean? Now you have a chance to burn yourself out because you're not in connection with other people, with something outside of you. It's only your life force moving you forward. And that's limited, that's finite. But there's infinite possibilities when you connect with nature, with other people, and you're moving this energy forward. So if you don't surround yourself in an environment like that, it's your energy that's getting drained. That's why you're getting tired. That's why you're always the one that's pushing, because it needs to be reciprocal. And it doesn't just involve other people, the space you're in. So I think that's a big part of why I wanted to do a foundation as well, like a modality, is to really imbue those experiences to people that want to be practitioners or just want to do it for themselves. That it's not about what's right or wrong. It's not about me telling you. It's about learning how to listen to yourself, letting go of the stress to the point where you get sober. You have the right chemistry so you can look at things with sobriety and not with all of my stressors and past traumas and the pressure in my body and the fears and so on. I can actually look at it and go, is this my path or not? And only you can say yes or no to that. But it's a matter of waking up to the point where you can see and actually make the choice. And if anything, that's what I really see in my work, you know? Give people a tool to wake up and connect, and then realize you have a choice. And then what you make out of that, that's your life. I don't have any judgment, but I really look at it as I owe it to people to show them that there is a choice. And when you think you're not having a choice, you're in disconnection. You are dissociated. When you start to see that there are choices, it might not be good choices that you have, right? But there always will be a choice, and you can make them. So like you connect to your body, you know you have something that can let go of stress, and you can make a choice what you want to do. The rest is really your path. You know, that's why it's an individual path for everyone. And I remember my father always said, you cannot deny someone to have an experience no matter how hard you try. I've tried really hard for myself and others, but you cannot deny the experience that someone has because you don't know what's going to turn them on. You don't know what's going to be the thing that changes for them. It might even be a destructive one. Of course, I'm not going to encourage anyone to do something destructive. I'm not going to not say my opinion, but I'm not going to withhold my love for someone either, or my compassion or care, just because they're doing something that I don't like. And I think that comes back to what a lot of practitioners are facing many times. They super accelerated after training and excited, and they're talking about these things, and they're talking really fast, and people are like, did you join a cult? What did you do? Oh, that's too good to be true. And then you're right back into something else.
I mean, I would say that that's one of the biggest pressures that one has to hold, is the opinions of others.
Oh, yeah.
And the belief systems of others. I mean, we shared that that story about my hairdresser back in Sweden. And we joke about it. But, I mean, my hairdresser was actually like a bit shocked. She was like, it's not even her.
What
like,
happened?
Why?
She doesn't know you.
Yeah. And her big thing was, how are they going to survive?
How are they going to make money?
How are they going to make money? That was her biggest thing. And I realized now that, you know, there's a reason why we've been in our retreat bubble, because that's how the retreats started, that we created an environment for ourselves because we wanted to heal physically, emotionally, energetically, and spiritually. And to do that, we had to kind of close the world off because the silence inside is, and that's the void. And that's why there's so much pressure in the void, because there's nothing there. You have no proof of what's going to happen. And that's the point, you know, that's the void, that's the darkness, that's the emptiness, that's the silence. But
mind goes nuts, nothing to grab onto.
Yes, and if you have, that's the space where you, I mean, that's a whole own episode. But if you are constantly, but that's where you can see what's inside yourself, you know, the good and the bad. That's the duality of what you have inside. But if you're constantly fed by other people's opinions and their frequencies and their experiences and their view of how the world works, because that's the point, like the world works in this way, like the massage teacher, like, yeah, you're not going to have this as a full-time job. And I mean...
Not with that attitude.
Yeah. I mean, that's just giving someone a really bad start.
It's basically it's sending your experience, your pressure, your nervous system. You're projecting it onto someone else. And I mean, the intention can still be that you want to do good for that person, but I don't know your path. Just because it didn't work out for me, I cannot project that onto you, especially if I haven't processed it in myself, because then I'm sending my PTS to you, and not my post-traumatic growth that just has wisdom and not a reaction to what you're saying.
No, but that's the point. We are limitless beings.
Yeah.
And once you connect with the spiritual aspects of things, you realize, oh, all of these things are limits.
Yes.
So it's invisible limits that you say, oh, there's rules. There's rules of how the world works, and I mean there are universal laws, but we, from our experiences and the culture that we grow up in, the families that we grow up in, the neighborhood that we grow up in, the people we have around us, and our lived life experiences creates rules. Like, you do this, you don't do this. This is how it works. You can do this and you can't do this, and that's all programmed into the nervous system and the fascia. Mm-hmm. And the belief systems and all of that. And then you live by that. And based on that, you're going to teach other people what to do. And you're going to tell people what to do, and you're going to project that onto people. And if you have people around you that is not expanding your capacity, like that, if that's, even if they have good intentions, because the good the good intention is that to keep you safe. But if you're going to expand and do great things, you can't only live by being safe, and that's where the stress management is like constantly trying to keep you safe. But that's not the same thing about holding pressure. Holding pressure is, I know I'm safe, even though nothing speaks towards that at this moment. Then that's where faith comes in, and that's where the spirituality comes in, and the trust. Because it's like, I know I'm safe. I'm going to hold the line. I'm going to hold the pressure of whatever this experience is. And that's usually when we are in the void or in a very high pressure situation or environment. But if we are surrounded with people who say, you're not going to make it, that's a frequency. And then we are affected about that from that frequency. And then to be able to hold that, because I'm here believing that I can do it and that I'm limitless and this is going to be okay. And if I have the other contrast very close to me saying that this is not going to work, either I will be infiltrated by that or affected by that, or I will be able to hold myself in that. And that is the pressure of the world, because most people don't think that everything is possible.
I think it really comes down to fear. And when I look at fear, it's not necessary. And I mean that because danger, when there's danger, your body will respond. Your experiences and your wisdom will tell you what you can do and cannot do, right? That's the post-traumatic growth. I put my hand on the stove, that was painful, someone was there, I worked through it. I'm not terrified of a stove, I can go back, but I'm not going to put my hand on it because I lived through the trauma. Now I have wisdom and experience. But if I didn't get that charge away from me, I'm going to touch the stove and you come close to the stove, be careful, you can, look, I burn, right?
Yeah.
So now my fear, that charge is going from me to you. And that charge is the same that creates violence, because you try to protect yourself. You have that skin color, then I can't trust you. Then I try to tell you, that's my fear that's being projected out into the world. And if I look at human dynamics today, whatever you don't process in yourself, it's not just like, it's my business. It is, but it's always going to affect other people through the resonance of your thoughts, your emotions, and how you choose to show up, and especially in communities. So it's not about this is the right way to think or be, but that charge is not going to lead you to a sober state of being. It's going to have all of these survival chemicals and cocktails in your mind, not allowing you to see objectively at things. And I think that's where the world is at today, in a very highly charged state. And that's why all of these modalities, somatic healing modalities, theory, internal alchemy, breath work, phoenix rising, all of these things are coming up now, working with the fascia, because whatever can release that stress and that charge is going to allow you to look at things differently, right? It's like, if you've ever been drunk and you have an idea, it makes so much sense, and you're so fired up with it.
Happened.
And you're so fired up with it, and you're like, oh my God, why didn't I think about this before? And you sober up and you go like, maybe you even wrote the idea down and you go, Jesus, there need to be an alcohol lock to me, you know, like, oh my God, like I shouldn't be able to speak in this state. And that's the same with stress. It affects you the very same way, and the unprocessed emotions you have, to the point where you can have that much chemicals, it's hard for your brain to even produce positive ones, to think different thoughts. And that's where the detox comes in, to really detoxify the body in a way so you can produce certain stages. That's why we have tremors, that's why we eat a certain way, that's why we might not say certain things or watch certain videos, because I know my purpose, where I'm going, and I'm not going to feed things in that's not going to bring me there, because they are going to accumulate more pressure inside of me. that's going to make it harder for me to go somewhere. I mean, of course I can indulge, that's not what I'm saying, but I know what's indulge and relaxing, and I know what's a lifestyle, and this is what I'm actually doing that's bringing me either where I want to go or don't want to go. And once again, it doesn't matter. There's no judgment. But at least I think people have the right to know this is possible. I have the right to sober up to the point where I can stand and look, okay, there's a crossroad here. And I feel safe and comfortable enough because I've done the work, because I know it's possible to do the work, so I can choose which road I go. And I might still go the same road and do the same things. But at least I'm aware and I'm taking a conscious choice. If I don't know and I'm not taking a conscious choice, it's like I'm being deprived of an aspect of life. And I think that's, if anything, it's a big purpose of why I like to teach these modalities, to just give these people this unbiased choice, and then now you can make that choice for you, and you're equipped to the point where you can choose your own path. And wherever that goes, wherever that leads you, it's probably where you're meant to go.
Yeah, I mean, challenges are our gifts. I mean, that's also a completely separate episode because there's so much to say about that. But once you learn, and that's also a skill, once you learn that high pressure situations and challenges are really God's gift to you to know, okay, where am I supposed to go? It's a course correction. It's a learning, and it's an ability to grow. And everything is about growing. Anyone who wanted to create something, to build something, to become something, to have something, know that, okay, I have to become, so abundance and money and success and all of these things, it's a result of who you are, not what you can do or what you learn. It's who you become. And to become that person, you have to grow. And you have to, and we do that through experiences. And it's the ability to grow under pressure, to learn from the experiences, to learn from the challenges, that we expand into the person that we somehow know, think, believe, wish that we want to be, depending on where we start. So all of that is gifts, and that's also when we, through our own fear, try to deprive someone from an experience. I mean, of course, it's like the train is coming, okay, that's an experience, that's not the experience that I'm talking about. It's more the life experiences.
Yes.
And learning to grow from mistakes, like understanding that a mistake is not a bad thing. Either I win or I learn.
Exactly.
I mean, we've both been in the martial arts industry, I was about to say, but
arena space.
Arena space. It's like we are so connected to the competition of sports, but it's the same thing in life. It's I attempt to do this. It's like I fail on an essay, or I fail on a test, or I start a business and it didn't work, or I enter a partnership and it didn't work. It's like we have to try things, but if we are afraid of trying, we're never going to learn, because even if it didn't work, you're going to learn so much for the next thing. And that's where the spirituality also comes in, like, how do I view the things that are put in front of me, and how do I navigate the difficult times? Because that's basically what all people, they just don't want difficult times, they don't want difficult emotions, and they don't want to experience bad things. But that's a part of the duality that we can't really escape. We escape it by disconnecting from it. And that's why in Phoenix Rising I talk so much about standing in the fire of truth.
Yes.
So we can talk about that at some point.
No, but I really think it comes down to the way you navigate the charges inside of yourself will determine where you show up from in life, primarily for yourself. And by extension of that, it will affect who you choose as your partner, your profession, your clothes, your appetite, what you do and what you don't do. And that charge we are not aware of many times. Like, I ask people, do you feel stressed? And they say no, because they're comparing to the extreme states where they felt a lot of stress. But you need a reference. Like, you need a reference to realize, where am I coming from? And after doing, let's say, okay, I ask you the question, are you stressed? No, I feel okay. And then you have a massage, and you go to a sauna, and you do an ice bath, and you have a nice meal, and you sleep, and you go to nature, and I come back and I say, how do you feel? Were you stressed before? Wow, yeah, I had all these things going on in my head, but I'm so used to it. So it didn't feel like stress to me. So it's about gaining that perspective. And that's what you can do with these tools. You don't have to go on a vacation. You do it at the comfort of your own home or wherever you're at. You clear so you can gain a perspective of where you're coming from. And that will make you clearer on the choices that you can make and the path you want to walk forward. And that's going to foster more collaboration, community, compassion, which makes me feel safer, and just me feeling safe, entering into a room feeling that your system, your nervous system is going to feel the same. It's going to resonate safety to me, and now that is going back and forth. And that's really getting out of your head and into your body and into a state of connection to yourself primarily, and through that connection to others. And when we start to go into that state and that resonance, usually there's less competition. Usually there's more collaboration. Usually I don't have that scarcity in me. Oh, I can't give that freely because I'm not going to have enough. Yes, you will. Yes, you will. So I think that's really what creates the real abundance. And you can see it in communities where they actually work together like this. You know, they grow because there's always enough. But it's a matter of clearing that within oneself to the point where you can start to realize that. And that's also why I'm really passionate about showing these things and, you know, do master classes and trainings and retreats, and why we're going to travel a lot next year to just spread it as wide as we can.
So we're going to round off now, but I want to mention a little bit about the certification training, and that's the beautiful part with internal alchemy, that there's multiple pathways. So even if if you're not aspiring to be a practitioner, I mean, you can still do the certification training. I mean, we've done multiple certification trainings that we're not actively working with. But there's also a pathway for the self, for the individual healing, and for the people who are not really interested in working with other people, because we talk a lot about the personal journey and how important it is to know thyself. And that's the beautiful thing with internal alchemy. And the next cohort is coming up. So can you share a little bit about that?
End of February, we're going to start the next cohort. The program is evergreen, so you can always jump on at any time you want. But I know from experience, a lot of people, maybe from school, we like to start class at the same time and finish, at the same time, because it creates a sense of connection and community. So that's why we have about 3 of these starts a year. So next one's going to be in February, and it's a really nice way to go through the material. A lot of the videos are pre-recorded, like the different tools and practices, but we will meet every other week to go through a specific topic, share experiences, and do a little bit of a practice. On top of that, we also have our Wellspring online program, where we have weekly classes that both me and Sara teach all of these different modalities that we train and that makes up internal alchemy and Phoenix Rising. So you can join those in the program as well. It's included in programs, so there's no extra fee. So you can do those either live or you can watch the replays. So basically you're going to get exposed personally to the practice a lot. And relating to the topic we spoke about today, that's going to clear a lot of stress charge in your system so you can hold more pressure. And that, if anything, is whether for yourself or as a practitioner, I think that's the main skill. That's why we build the program, so you can do it from the comfort of your own home. They're all online sessions, and you can still be able to, work, whatever you're doing, but this will integrate into your lifestyle and gradually start to become more like your own ethos, your own philosophy. So there's 3 tracks. There's one if you want to be a group practitioner only. There's one if you want to be group practitioner and one-on-one practitioner. And then there's one add-on program for TRE providers to learn how to become practitioners. And then we have 2 tracks if you just want to do it for yourself. If you don't want to be a practitioner, you can just get access to the video library and practice on your own, or you can get access to the video library and the Wellspring, the online classes, weekly classes, for some extra support or community sensation. So that's really the way we build a program, so people can learn. Depending on where you're coming from, you can choose to show up and invest the time and resources that you have that feels aligned with your purpose, and there's something for everyone. That's basically the model we want to have, right? Like wherever you're coming from, you're able to join in at some level and you will get something out of it.
And on December 10, so this podcast has probably not been launched at that time. We're hosting a free masterclass, an internal alchemy masterclass, so you can actually try the modality and get a lot of information, a lot of practical information about it, and have the full experience. So even if you watch this podcast after the masterclass has actually happened, we will have it available for you. So you just go to Simba's Instagram and you find the masterclass there. So it's the global invitation for internal alchemy for 2026, which is going to be a very interesting and expansive year for us as we're getting out and moving around in the world. So if you want to join us for 2026, I highly suggest you sign up for the masterclass, even if you're watching it in watching the replay. You want to share something about that? Yeah,
so even if 10th of September has passed when you see this, it will be available as a replay. So you can still sign up and you can get the replay. And then it's not just a class in internal alchemy, you also get to see our full vision of why we want to travel more and how we want to spread this work to as many people as possible.
Okay, so thank you so much for joining in. If you have topics that you would like us to discuss, let us know. We are here to expand the vision of internal alchemy and Phoenix Rising, and we are so happy to have you on board. Sending you lots of love. Ciao.
Ciao.